Impavidus was launched in 2015 and she was copper coated from new. She's now had 2 full seasons without being taken out the water, and she hasn't moved for 6 months. The Saildrive Gator also needs changing, so we're going to do that while we're out the water. There are also a number of other things like seals and O-rings that need to be changed, so we'll do them too. Enjoy the video. In this week's video we're going to show you how we changed our Volvo Saildrive Gator. Volvo recommend you do this every 7 years. Our boat was launched in 2015 and has never had it done. It's not a problem, and the one we took out was just as good as new. But I guess if Volvo say you've got to do it, then really you've got to do it. And it's not a job you can do in the water. You need to lift. That's what you call a dirty bottom. Don't worry about the prop. Don't worry about the propeller. This is a special propeller. It flips over. It looks, from here, it looks like it's damaged, but it's not. It flips. It's special. I'll show you when it comes out. Okay. Oh, there she is. Looking pretty good. Next to nothing on the anodes, lots of growth, but lots of blockage on the drive, look. Again, we'll get rid of that. Now you can buy all of the parts to do this job direct from Volvo, but there's also other outlets where you can buy them, and they can be cheaper even though they are genuine parts. It's a good idea to sit down with the installation instructions and make some notes, because they cover a number of different sail drives and not everything you see in the instructions is relevant to your particular sail drive. So I'd strongly suggest you go through and mark up anything with a pen of particular interest. For example, torque settings on bolts for when you need to do things back up, where certain gaskets or O-rings go, and of course what order the parts go back, and even their orientation. Very important. Of course, most important is get someone young and fit, like your son, to come and help you. Well, we're off. First thing is to disconnect all the ancillaries, water, raw water, pumps, air filter, etc, etc, etc. I'm not going to detail every single bit because you've seen it a million times. But anything that's important or things that you should watch out for, I will show highlights for you guys. So I'm going to dive in there now with a rattle gun and start whipping things off. Right, quick update. I'll update you on the important stuff, as I said. Got all the tools that we need in the right order here. That one will be the last one we use, obviously. My son Ryan's here from the UK. We have the situation under control. About 2 hours into the job. And let's show you what we've done. Pipe, that's it. So, raw water intake is off, all drained down. All of the coolant has been drained down from there by removing the cap and put in the
shop vac, the aqua vac on there, sucking all the water out, all of the coolant out, and out of the heat exchanger. The throttle body has been disconnected. The engine mounts have been disconnected. We have these two wooden plates that have been made up to go to slide the engine forward. Hopefully we'll have enough clearance then. Diesel pipes disconnected to flow and return. And then over the back we have the exhaust. The exhaust here disconnected. The gearbox link disconnected. Obviously the what is disconnected? I can't remember what else is disconnected. Oh, the electricity on that side and turned off. And now we're just going to undo 6 bolts there, and hopefully that's these ones here. Now, really important point is these are the electrical isolation tabs. If you haven't got them, you've got a problem. That's about it. Otherwise, we're ready to undo the bolts and just shift the engine forward. So I've got the prop off downstairs as well. That's it. Let's crack on. I'll update you in a wee bit.
So the instructions that come with the Volvo pack are really quite good. They actually give you numbered drawings of what to do in what sequence in order to get the Saildrive out. Really quite useful. And if you haven't done this job before, I'd say if you can change a spark plug, you could probably do this job with a little help from a friend and a little help from Volvo's very good instruction manual. One thing that isn't pointed out particularly well in the Volvo instructions are these isolation tabs or washers. This is really important. Volvo engines are disconnected electrically, i.e. they're isolated from the Saildrives. There's a number of places that this needs to be pointed out. First are these tabs on the bell housing bolts, I guess you'd call them, where the gearbox bolts to the motor. There are also 2 points on the engine, and that's on the throttle control. One is here, there's a plastic block the throttle cable goes through, and here on the actual pump, and here there is a rubber washer which goes through the control body and stops the cable conducting electricity from the engine back through the throttle to the gearbox and the Saildrive. That's quite complicated, but a lot of people miss it. There is also an isolation sheet between the engine and the Saildrive. I'll show you that in a bit. And where the cush drive or drive plate meets the engine, this is isolated by rubber blocks on the actual drive plate itself. The result is there should be no continuity between the engine and the Saildrive or gearbox. Now on some boats you're actually able to slide the engine out and into the saloon. On ours you can't. The Saildrive has to come over the top of the engine, and to do that we had to make up some blocks, I'm showing them here in blue, and slide the engine off its mountings forward onto the blue blocks and away from the Saildrive. It parts where the red line is here. You can support the Saildrive from the underside or outside of the boat. We'll show you that in a minute, while you take this bolt out in order to remove the Saildrive.
Okay, next update. Engine is pulled forward to a point where the raw water hose is, the actual hose clip is almost touching that timber there, and the pump is just hitting the insulation, sound insulation. We did actually start ripping that off, thinking that we might be able to get in there, but you can't. So next top tip, you've got one of these water filters, raw water filters. Oh, I'll just bash that. One of these type water filters. These pegs push in. You can then lift that off up out the way. So all the hoses now undone, all the crown bolts undone, the third engine mounting at the back there, pins taken out, and the leg and gearbox are now being held in that position by wrapping a rope round the bottom of the leg and then pulling it forward on the two stays which are holding, or two of the stays which are holding the boat vertical. So that's a heating duct. I'm going to now go down outside and push this up, and our Ryan's going to pull it up and over the top of the engine. We're going to put a blanket over the top of the engine. May even take this engine mounting off, this lifting eye off, Ryan, yeah? Just to save us losing a finger or an eye.
I'll put that mat back over, Dad, it'll be fine.
Yeah?
Yeah, I'll keep that away. Save me.
Well, it's only 113mm.
Oh, okay.
So if we just took that off,
I'll get on it now.
and then there is an old, well, actually, Mum's best bath towels in there. We could use that, lay that over the top. She won't mind. I won't take
Is
that.
a wedding dress on the boat?
Yeah.
Use that.
It's 8 o'clock in the morning. We've been up and at 'em since 7. This is our progress on day 2. Doesn't look like there's any progress apart from obviously there's a sail drive missing. Both of us are up half the night coughing again. But it is what it is. Got to get on with it. So this is the clamping plate, and what a state it was in. And I mean that from nothing we've done, but the paint has just fallen off on the inside here. See, I haven't quite finished that bit. The black paint that was on there had no primer at all, so just straight down onto the metal, no primer. Of course, any water or anything gets on it, off it comes. So in a couple of places we've got some pitting. It's all been cleaned up with a flapper wheel, and then a wire brush. So flapper wheel, which is down there, wire brush. That's ready to have hammerite now. Let's have a look at what Cindy's been doing since the crack of dawn. Cleaning up in acid our strippers and all the stainless steel nuts and bolts. We're going to have to clean this up by hand. This is aluminium, so let's just show you. This is the housing for the shaft. I've got to change the bearings in that. Sorry, the lip seals in that. But all this stuff has to come off, be cleaned up. This is the important surface, the one on the back. That's where our 2 lip seals go there to seal. This one's a compression seal. O-ring that works as a compression seal, and that's just an O-ring. We'll get that all cleaned out. Got to make sure this bearing surface doesn't go any rust on it. Gonna have to keep that clean. But yes, those, so these 2 seals, lip seals, will knock out, and that goes back on. I've checked the shaft, there's not any significant wear on the shaft, and then we'll start on the Brunton. So next stage, sorry I'm causing a shadow, this is the rear support for the sail drive. We took that out, it's quite badly rusted here. Again, the paint is so thin, it's thinner than cherry blossom, it's, you know.
So this casting is at the bottom of the sail drive, and it holds the 2 lip seals and the bearing for the drive shaft. You knock the bearing and both the lip seals out from this side using a large socket. You can see here that I used a 36mm socket. Yep, that's quite big, not everyone will have one, and just knocked it backwards onto 2 blocks of wood. Both the lip seals came out easily, and the O-rings just pulled off with a small screwdriver. All of the replacement parts come as part of the kit. Obviously you'll need a GoPro to do the filming and a scalpel set to do your editing afterwards.
So there we are, that's all cleaned up on the outside. Bit of blue Trilux on there still. Lots of sanding going on in the yard, lots of crap flying about. These are the seals that go on. I'll just read you the numbers on these. I'm pretty sure this is imperial size numbers. It says SC 1.250, so that would be 1 1/4 inch. 2.000, 0.375. So I'm pretty sure 0.375 is the width, and it's a 2-inch outer with a 1.25 inch and a quarter centre shaft that fits in. I'm surprised they don't make those a double lip, but hey ho. So I'm going to push these in. Now it's important these are pushed in without any grease. It says so in the manual there. So we've got to do that. And I've got a nice big socket that fits on there, and a nice socket that fits on there. Got the GoPro there ready to set up. The only thing is, when the GoPro legs fell off, it never ends, does it? Hey ho, still. So just take that plate off, and that's what was inside, blocking all that lot in there. So that needs a good clean out. Not too bad now, but that must have been. Look at that, Ron.
Oh, nice. Was that in there?
That was all in there, blocking up that.
So that would have caused you cooling issues at some point.
Well, yeah. It didn't have plenty of water going through, but it must have slowed it down. Anyway, it's off. That's it. So the base plate or intermediate plates come off. It's been cleaned up. We've put a stone around there just to tidy up any little burrs. Put the 2 O-rings in with some silicone grease, and the black O-ring there. And note that the 2 green O-rings go opposite each other, and the black O-ring is the one at the top. You can see that it's at the top because there's no place for it at the bottom, so that's where that goes. Oh, there's shouty again. This has all been cleaned out. The bottom half of the legs cleaned out. Next thing to go on here will be the new Gator, which is hanging up there. Hardly any difference between them, really. You can't, you know, if you cleaned the other one up, you'd think it was brand new. But that's going to go on there, and then this will drop in over the top, and then that's it. Bottom gets bolted on. So I'll do that. If there's anything important to note, I'll stop and film it. But meanwhile, we need to get on because we've got to get this back in today. So there we go. It's back together. All of the bolts have been torqued into sequence according to the instructions which come with the kit. Bit tricky getting these in here, so if you haven't got a socket head driver to go on your torque wrench, when you buy one which is narrow, so that if it's in there, otherwise the head will hit this. We had to put wobble extensions on to get down in here, or buy a long series. See what happens if you're not careful, that just hits on there. So it's really hard to get that to set the torque. Front one's okay, back one's okay, middle one's okay. It's just these 2 on either side. So these are 22 on the inside, 20 on the outside. So all the instructions, the poundage, Newton meters, whichever you're using, are there. We're now getting ready to fit this back in. The last things to do is we've just painted the second coat of hammerite on those brackets. That one there. Angie's just done that one there, and that will mean that it can go back in probably in an hour or so. We'll clear up all the engineering stuff from outside, and then it's inside jobs. That's the inside now, all cleaned out. Good job, Cindy. We're going to lift the leg and gearbox back in and install that, and then push the engine back into position. Some of these. So drive leg and gearbox now back in. It's all nice and tidy in there. You see, there's actually quite a bit of room, more than I'd anticipated. All the ring gears, the compression ring is all repainted. 2 coats of hammerite, that's 6 times thicker than it was from Volvo. That Volvo paint, well, it was as thick as cherry blossom. You could peel it off with your fingernail. But then I suppose they sell a lot of them to people. I think that's kind of about it. We've got to get that in the neutral position there. And it's just a case of sliding the engine back onto there once we've got a few bolts in. Get the string around the bottom to hold the gearbox up. Bob's your uncle, Fanny's your aunt.
Now this is an important part. You must make sure that this isolation pad or plate, which is made out of white plastic, goes between the bell housing and the gearbox and isolates the Saildrive from the engine. This is a critical part. You must make sure that it fits exactly right. There is a plastic peg that helps you locate it in the correct position.
After a bit of jiggery pokery, managed to get that bolt in by moving the bottom of the leg in and out, left and right. All the bolts are all torqued up now. Correct torque, I'll show you that in a minute. Then we slid the engine back off of those blocks and into position. Quite a lot of muck underneath the engine mountings, but as you can see, it's gone back. Focus. In exactly the right place. And so now the really important bit is these bolts here. I'm going to go upside down for a second. So these bolts here, 1, 2 and 2 at the bottom. I'll show you on an exploded view. Are the isolation, well, they're the bell housing bolts from the gearbox to the bell housing, but they're isolated with a plastic, I suppose you'd call it a washer, but they must be in place, absolutely must be in place. Otherwise your drive leg becomes part of the neutral or earth of the battery system and dissolves away. So pretty important that. I'll show you where they're located as well. So that's it.
So this is the location of 2 of those bolts. There are 2 on the other side. You can see that there's white plastic and they're quite visible. Again, I must emphasise these are critical detail.
So that's it. Bit of spillage in the bottom where we were cleaning out, but at least all the barnacles are off now. I'm going to go down and put the bottom half in. Right, let's go. Okay, so drive leg's now in. We can remove this piece of line which we were using to pull the drive leg forward to get the alignment right. Still a little bit of oil in the bottom of the leg, but that's fine. The outer gator is on. That will be cleaned, rubbed down here, stuck up to there. This side goes upwards, sits in that hole. They're never a perfect fit. They usually go in reasonably easy. I actually saw 2 guys do one here. They were Volvo dealers, and they stuck one on with spray tack, double-sided spray glue. So they sprayed it on there, sprayed it on here, obviously cleaned everything up, let it go off, and then sprayed it again, starting in the centre, worked their way out. It's still on the boat as far as I know. So yeah, it's a single part contact adhesive. I'm using a single part contact adhesive to do this. I'll get around to it. But yeah, that's on there, genuine Volvo one on this. And you put the hole, goes at the lowest point in your Saildrive. So the lowest point for us is here. So that hole, drainage hole, goes in there. Doesn't really make a lot of difference because you've got holes at the front and back, but you better put it as the manual says. So now I'm going to put the drive shaft back in there and everything back on. Just clean this up. There's a bit of paint on there from a few years ago, but yeah, I'll put that on. I'll show you when that's done. There's our wonderful Brunton prop, all re-greased. New O-rings on the grease fillers. The other ones are getting a bit manky. Do them with white lithium grease. It's all cleaned up really well. And let's turn you that way round. Drive's now in. A little bit of silicone grease on the bolts here, so they don't stay in there forever and a day. And I've just got the torque wrench to go on them. A bit of silicone grease around here for just for packing it in, putting it in. That's it.
And one thing I mentioned here but didn't draw your attention to well enough, I think, is the fact that, like all lip seals, these have a spring around the outside, and although they are stainless steel, they are somewhat prone to corrosion. So push plenty of grease between the casting and the lip seal after the lip seal's in, not before, and this will help protect that spring from the salt water, which of course can get in from the outside. Just thought I'd point that out to you.
Just going to stop for a cappuccino in a minute. But anode's on, and yes, keyboard warriors, away you go. I know it's not a brand new anode. I know it's not a brand new anode. That is an anode after 2 years on our boat. We have a big teardrop anode as well here. The teardrop anode here is connected to the negative side of our battery installation, so it's the ground plate basically. And that anode there protects the shaft up there. The leg is isolated from everything else, as we've shown you previously. And we have an anode on our Brunton prop as well. So this is what this looks like after 2 years at sea. You can see it's less than a third used. So yes, keyboard warriors, it's going back on. Little bit of Loctite onto the bolts that go in there. Sorry guys, cut my hand. For inside bleed a lot, I have to wear plasters. It's not because I'm all girly. I probably shouldn't say that these days. Yes, anyway, so a little bit of Loctite on there. We will test for continuity between the shaft and the anode in a bit. The next job is to put our rope cutter on. Rope cutter goes on there, engages in there, and just before I put it on, I'm going to go around the teeth with the stone, sharpen them all up. There's the outer gator now on, sealed. So how do we do that? Well, contact adhesive like Evo stick. You've got that in your country. We've previously used a 2-part one. Today we've used this because that's what we can get locally, and it's like you'd stick Formica down with, 2-part adhesive. So a 2-coat adhesive. So the first thing that we did was cleaned all this off all the way around, marked it with a pen. Cindy got a sharp chisel and a sanding pad and cleaned it off all the way around, and we then put a layer on the underside of the boat. Then we cleaned off the rubber with abrasive, same thing, a layer on, and then we left it half an hour, and then we did another coat as soon as the undercoat, first coat, was dry to the touch. Quickly over the top, give it 2 or 3 minutes, and then bond it up. And now just looking to see any little bubbles or imperfections. I think that's pretty good. And we're just going to give this a coat of Trilux now, because you must not use copper-based anti-foul on your aluminium Saildrive. That's aluminum to you Americans. So yeah, we tried a roller on there.
I think it's pretty much stuck.
I think it has stuck.
I think we're just fussing too much.
Yeah, I think them lumps aren't air bubbles because you can't squeeze them there.
It's gel coat.
Gel coat, yeah. So that's it. That ain't coming off in a hurry. We'll just mask this up now and get some Trilux on there. There we go, a good few thick layers of Trilux on there. Still wet in places. There's about 4 or 5 coats on there. I mean, the idea is that it wears off. It's an eroding anti-foul which doesn't have copper in it, because copper and aluminium react, as we all know from boat school, day 6 at boat school.
Well, the work on Impavidus continued at a pace despite us both having colds, and my son had to go back to the UK before we relaunched. But with the help of a couple of Patreons, who you'll see next week, we managed to get copper coat redone, the Saildrive done, new through holes in, and stacks of other work. But of course, they'll all be in another video. I hope this one's been of use to you and you've got something out of it. Don't forget to like, share and subscribe, and remember you can help us to keep making these videos by becoming a Patreon, because making videos is an expensive business, and at the moment it's only our Patreons that are keeping us going. There's a link in the description. Thanks for watching guys, and don't forget, sail safe and don't forget to watch next week.